Hola, ¿cómo está? Bien, you too? Bonjour, mon ami, mon frère. This is Canadian Conquistador again. I wanted to do a video. I've been going around in the dirt and I found some mushrooms. Come here, Zoe. This is Zoe, my new Chihuahua. She's been adopted. There she is. She's our new scavenger, but she's a good doggy. Willow's out here also. If you've been following along, you've realized that I've pretty much put lots and lots of effort into building soil around here in my yard, my small suburban yard, and I've put in probably 6 dump truckloads of wood chips, azomite, rock dust, mulch, molded leaves. I chop and drop, so everything that grows every year gets lopped down at the base. I don't pull them out by the roots or anything. I just lop them off at the ground surface and let it fall where it goes, so it covers up everything. I've been putting cow manure, chicken manure, rabbit manure in this system. After so many years of doing this, you're going to start noticing, if you replicate what I've been doing, the wood chip system, just putting down 18 inches of wood chips and letting it decompose via mycelium action, via mushrooms and fungi, or via insects, pill bugs, and all those creepy crawly things that you'll find in your dirt. And after many years, you're going to start discovering mushrooms. Okay, so mushrooms aren't exactly something that you want in your lawn if you're trying to manicure your lawn and have that perfect neighborly pleasing front yard, so you don't want mushrooms in your grass, obviously. But in a food forest, which is what we got going on here, we like to see mushrooms, because that means that the hypha, mycelium, the mycorrhiza is all doing its thing in the soil, and you get that basically from decomposed wood products. Okay, the mushrooms will come and break down those big pieces of wood and spread out their little feelies, their mycorrhizal tentacles, so to say. There is 5 times more fungi upon the earth than there is vegetation. There is more fungi on the earth than there is vegetation. What you see here is just an abscess, or just a little tiny portion of the structure of the fungus. This is how it expresses itself, but you don't really see this in nature. There's nothing that replicates or emulates a mushroom. Mushrooms can be found in Antarctica. Fungus, I should say, not necessarily mushrooms. They find them in the desert. You can even have certain types of fungi growing inside your ear. That's crazy, right? They've actually grown fungus on top of old oil gas stations where they had oil spills and gasoline spills, and they grew fungus there, and the fungus actually took the oil out of the ground, went into the mushrooms somehow, and it assimilated it, and now the oil is all cleaned up. So there's lots of ways that they're using mushrooms and fungi in medicinal ways. It's also used for eating, obviously. There's so many mushrooms though out there that it'd be hard to tell which ones are the edible ones, so it's probably a good thing to probably pick up a couple books on mushrooms. Even then, the books aren't really that informative, where I personally feel confident eating a mushroom right out of my yard. But okay, let's get back to it. So mushrooms actually are very good to see in your yard. You want to see them in your yard if you're doing a food forest. It just means that the hypha, the interactions of the mycelium and the mycorrhiza are doing their function of breaking down those wood chips, making it into viable soil, which is what you want. It benefits trees more, I believe, than it does anything else, but I think it's 90% of plants associate with the mycorrhizal symbiosis. The mycelium that spreads out under the soil actually like little tentacles. They will actually attach to the ends of plant roots, and they actually help break down minerals and help the plant assimilate minerals through this interaction. And it also helps water absorption, helps maintain water structure in the soil. But yes, so you do want to see mushrooms. Don't be disappointed if you see mushrooms in your yard. Actually jump up and do a triple spin and be just happy, because that's a good thing. It means you successfully created your own living soil, right? One of my things that I do is I like to observe. An artist by nature, I guess that's my strength. But when I look at things like trees and mountains and water and such, I always try to find the character of God in it, see what he's trying to speak to me about, what he's trying to tell me. What is he trying to tell me in nature? And unfortunately, when I look at mushrooms, I have a real hard time finding what he's trying to tell me. I mean, you look at a mushroom, okay, besides the phallic part of it all, which is the first thing most people's minds go to. Look at a mushroom. Where do you see a mushroom in nature elsewhere? I see them in shellfish. Some shellfish, some coral. The squids look like mushrooms. Why is it that they're all associated with the sea, though? I realize that nothing else on the planet kind of quite looks like a mushroom, except for things that come from the ocean. Isn't that weird? Did you know they dug up mushrooms that were over 100 feet long? Did you know that mushrooms were taller than trees in the past? God doesn't always just show his character in nature. Sometimes God will show an evil in nature. Sometimes you will find the character of the devil himself, showing us the nature of sin, the character of evil in a plant. Kind of seems a little extraordinary, right? Or a little crazy. Evil, true evil lurks in the dark, right? Mushrooms typically don't grow in direct sunlight. The roots, you've heard the saying, the root of all evil, right, is money. Well, the root of sin is spread throughout humanity, or in this metaphor, throughout the ground. They say that the hyphae strands, or the mycelium of the mushroom, actually are huge. They're like miles and miles and miles. Like the biggest organism on the planet is mushroom structures found under the ground. Sin also has no bounds. It is a mushroom organism, a fungus organism, only shows such a small amount of its nature. And sometimes it's obvious and it lays dormant, and sometimes it sticks its little fruit up in the air to let you know it's still around, right? Let me just show you a few things. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other wild animal that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God say, 'You shall not eat from any tree in the garden?' The woman said to the serpent, 'We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, You shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, nor shall you touch it, or you shall die.' But the serpent said to the woman, 'You will not die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil.' So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruits and ate. and she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made loincloths for themselves. I ask you one request, that you pray on these things and see if the Lord tells you that they're correct. I am not pretending to be a prophet. I'm just putting two and two together and seeing if it is right. After Adam and Eve had taken of the fruit, they were able to see good and evil, and probably many, many other things. And there's that saying that says, once you've seen something, you cannot unsee it. So I imagine that when he was kicked out of the garden, when she was kicked out of the garden, that they brought some of the things they saw with them along their generations to come. And they, with the help of the Nephilim and the giants, they built technologies. Nothing new is under the sun, So the world became very evil and destructive upon the planet. So that's when the flood was sent in Noah's Ark. And the story goes, after Noah landed, his sons populated the earth, and they spread about. God wanted everybody to spread apart and multiply the earth. And then came Nimrod. Now the whole earth had one language and the same words, and as they migrated from the east, they came upon a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves. Otherwise we shall be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." The Lord came down to see the city and the tower which mortals had built. And the Lord said, "Look, they are one people, and they have all one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. Nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language there, so that they will not understand one another's speech." So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore it was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth, and from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of all the earth. As we see the decline of Babel and the people are scattered throughout the earth, they take their building skills with them. As you can see, I guess tower in the Bible really equals pyramid. As you can see, all these civilizations that came from Babel spread across the earth. They decided to build their towers or their pyramids throughout the earth. You can see in every culture, major culture that is. And along with these building structures, another thing came with them. Their deifying of, you guessed it, the mushroom. So there's some scientists out there and the science is called mycology, and that is the study of ancient use of mushrooms, especially entheogens, which are plants that give one a divine experience. They came to the conclusion that almost every major civilization out there partook of mushrooms to experience that ethereal type of knowledge experience. And through these experiences, they would go into trances and become God-like in their own minds. They would see things that normal, sober-minded people would not see. The Egyptians actually reserved mushrooms. They were supposed to be untouchable to the regular citizen. Only the pharaohs were allowed to touch the mushrooms and go into these trances. The Mayans would actually participate in their sacrifices under the influence of these drugs. It seems pretty easy to conclude that this was more or less, although detached from one another physically, a one-world religion where induced comas and hallucinations would bring them into that self-proclaimed godliness. So here we go. We have all the civilizations have split up. They left Babel. They took all that engineering skills they learned and the mushroom, their false deity, and they scattered amongst the earth. And what do? They take their architects and they build and they try to reach the heavens, trying to claim themselves as God. They think because they can lay brick upon brick that they are gods. And then with the mushrooms, they're awakened to the stars, the heavens, knowledge that they should not be getting. What is Satan doing exactly? He wants us to hate each other. He wants us to be ignorant of God or the devil. He doesn't want you to believe in him. He doesn't, because if you believe in him, then you know there's a God. So hostile to God, ourselves, to each other, and to nature. Everything that God made, he wants us to be hostile towards. Some of you out there are already at that point. You're already mad about everything in life. This is exactly where Satan wants us to be. Satan wants us to be separate from God. He'll have you deny God by defiling his temple, or nature, or your neighbor, or yourself. Why? We're images of God. When God made Adam, he made us in his image. And then he made Eve from a rib bone from Adam. So we're direct images of God. And whenever Satan sees us, he just cannot help himself. He has just the most absurd anger for us humans. He also hates us because God loves us. He's been corrupting God's creations through drugs, rituals, media, entertainment. By you not believing in the devil, he's got you. Science is trying to disprove God at all times, so you know the devil's behind most of that science. Satan has only a minimal amount of time on this planet to get as many people on his side. If you really understand Satan, he's egotistical, he's self-centered, he can't imagine God reserved a place such as hell for him and his minions, and he does not want to be alone. He wants to basically prove to God, look, you're God, but I'm more charming. I can convince all these humans to go to hell with me. Satan doesn't want to be alone. That's when it gets down to it. He just doesn't want to be alone, so he's trying to drag all humanity down with him. What we can see in modern time is we're still on drugs. We're just on pharmaceutical drugs, legal drugs, ones that they've deemed safe by the FDA. You know, FDA says it's safe, so you can go ahead and take your Xanax, and it's unlimited ailments, and the pharmacy has figured out ways to fix you. Instead of praying to God, instead of fearing God, we fear death. We fear death because we have taken God out of the picture. So imagine being a person that doesn't believe in God or hell or heaven. What is after death? You're terrified because then this is your only life. You've got to make it work during this time because you have nothing else. You have no faith. You have nothing else. So of course you're going to be fearful of things that are spreading across the countryside, and people are terrified of catching a cold and what have you. They're terrified of dying. Ultimately, that's what they're terrified of doing, is dying. And that's where Satan wants you. He wants you in a place where you denied God, you denied the devil, You've denied that there's any power other than yourself, and now you live in a life of fear and terror, where us who believe in God, we know there's a place for us after. Satan can't fool us. Even Satan believes in an afterlife, and he's going to be there ruling over a large amount of people. You're just like, why? Why would the devil do this? Why would the devil do this? It's because he's lonely. He hates God, and he hates you because you're an image of God, and because God loves you. So the mushroom was, in my speculating, the first sorcery, the first Pharmakia, the first pharmacy. Fast forward 3,000 some years, and we no longer need the mushroom, because now we have the technology with our pharmacies to do the same thing that the mushroom was originally doing. Now, when you're on drugs, that is a portal to open up so that Satan himself can get into you and show you knowledge. And this, you can just imagine all the knowledge that we have obtained directly from Satan. So now, in modern times, we still create huge buildings, huge skyscrapers that reach almost to the heavens, and we still blaspheme God from above. But there is a new tower that they are focusing their attention upon, that Satan is focusing his complete attention on. We look at our DNA. Its structural name is Pyramidia. Pyramidia is the base of the three other elements that make up our DNA. And through today's modern pharmacies, we are engineering DNA. We are infiltrating DNA. We are cutting it up. We are re-stitching it together to make it our own form. We have given up on physical towers. Now we are messing with God's temple, our bodies. And by doing so, we are indirectly and directly climbing up that tower, stringing back our bows and firing them upon God himself. Rejoice, O heaven, you saints and apostles and prophets, for God has given judgment for you against her. Then a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, with such violence Babylon, the great city, will be thrown down and will be found no more. And the sound of harpists and minstrels and of flutists and trumpeters will be heard in you no more. And an artisan of any trade will be found in you no more. And the sound of the millstone will be heard in you no more. And the light of a lamp will shine in you no more. And the voice of bridegroom and bride will be heard in you no more. For your merchants were the magnates of the earth, and all nations were deceived by your sorcery. And in you was found the blood of prophets and of saints, and of all who have been slaughtered on earth. So there you have it. We are back to where we started. We started with a one world religion based upon the mushroom worship, and there was other factors too that followed them with the pyramid building. But now we're building these great big towers. We're engineering humans. We are making scientific breakthroughs in every level of humanity, and we are now pushing that every human being upon the planet gets a certain thing. I hope you enjoyed this video. I didn't want to go too much into details so that I don't get this video taken down, but you can put two and two together. The main one I wanted to put is the pyramids, the mushrooms, and that all-seeing eye. And don't be fooled, guys. Remember, Jesus saves.